So if we haven't met before, my name is Shane Young. I am the guy who talks a whole bunch on the internet about this lovely Power Platform stuff. So there's all my fancy contact information if you need any of that. Definitely just check out my YouTube channel. It's always my favorite place. And then, of course, we've got Chewy down there in the bottom corner and then Buddy over on the side. So we started remodeling our bathroom this week, and we kind of cleared everything out before the contractors showed up. And literally 3 seconds later, Buddy jumps up on the counter. He's never been on a counter in his life. He just jumped up there, barked at the dog in the mirror for a while, and then decided that that dog was okay. And yeah, he spent an hour that evening just sitting on the counter. So I guess the Bernese mountain dog in him felt like counters are mountains. I don't know. So anyway, no one cares, right? But Buddy's fine. Okay, so what we want to talk about today is Copilot. What I want to do is kind of talk to you guys, walk you through, Copilot, talk about AI in general. And I think one of the things to keep in mind, is, or one of the neat things, I woke up this morning at 5 a.m. to be here, but Copilot is starting to roll out to different people, right? So I've seen some people tweeting about it. So if you haven't done it already, make sure you go out there and sign up for the preview for Copilot. They're starting to pick people off that list and roll it out. So instead of demoing in my usual super top secret tenant, we're going to demo in my live tenant. So what could possibly go wrong? Right? Like I literally got it like an hour ago. So why wouldn't I demo it from here, right? I'm an idiot. It's okay. All right. So if you haven't seen Copilot before, this is that idea of, helping me be a better developer, right? Like, don't think of this as the enemy. Think of this as a way to make you that 10x developer or the 1000x developer or whatever the trendy thing is to be these days. But the idea here is that, like, when I'm on the home screen of Power Apps, you can see at the top, welcome, Shane. I already feel better about it. But it's like, hey, describe what your app should do. So let's hop right here. What do we want to do? I think we want to do something like, I'm always polite. So please make me an app to track, what do you guys want to do? Let's do football cards. Football cards, right? I know it's a very business critical scenario for most of us, but I find if I make these too business specific, then you guys can't bridge the gaps. If I make it completely business irrelevant, then you can make fun of me and bridge that gap. But here you can see I typed in that simple sentence. It is thinking, and look at that. Just like that, moments later, it has created me an app, but not really, right? It hasn't actually created the app yet. If you look in the bottom right corner, you see a big create app button. So what it's done is it's made a table of fields that I might want to track in a football card app. So kind of cool, right? And the idea here, right, you can see we got card ID, card name, the team, the year, the condition, the price. So it has put fields of data in there for me, just like that. And so the idea is this table doesn't exist yet, though. What they've done is they've said, hey, based on what you asked, here's an idea of what a table is, but now we're going to use words to shape it. So for example, maybe I'm like, one of my favorite players isn't in there, right? So let's try this. Please add a row of sample data for, I said favorite player, and I don't really have a favorite player, so I got to make up one. Boomer Esiason, right? He was a Bengal. I am a Bengals fan. Esiason. Can I spell it right? It's probably not spelled right. We'll press it. We'll see what happens. It thinks about it. It's probably laughing at me right now. Still laughing at me.
Tee.
There you go. So it figured it out, right? Cincinnati Bengals, very good. 1988 sounds like a good time. Condition was only good. His career was only good.
I think it even spell corrected his name.
It did.
It did.
Yeah.
It's really smart, right? There's a great story about how I did dog breeds instead of dog breeds one time. So, things happen. But there you go. So it added sample data. So obviously adding sample data about football cards, like who cares? But like when I've used this in more customer-facing scenarios, I've had it add sample data that made sense in the scenario. So like we'll see later, I'll probably show you an app where we did sample FAQ questions, and they were real FAQ questions that a business in the scenario I gave it would ask. So very helpful. So there you go. So we can have it add sample data. Now, what if I look at this and said, all right, so condition, as you can see, by looking right here, that is a choice field. So maybe you're curious what choices it has. So what are the choices for the condition column? We can ask. And look, it says, hey, there they are. What if we wanted to have one for fire damage? Please add a condition for fire damage. I don't know why I went so dark, but I did. Or I can't spell damage. Please add a condition for fire damage. All right, and so there, sorry, I cannot help with this question. So this happens, right? So one of the things that is important to understand about this Copilot, or I guess all the Copilot built in the Power Apps, is it's not like they just said, oh yeah, let's insert ChatGPT into this thing, right? Like, yeah, I know if you've used ChatGPT, you're probably like, all right, that's all it is. It's not though. They've taken a foundation and they've added their own logic. So they've added their own Dataverse specific things. They've also added their own controls, right? I shouldn't be trying to use this Copilot to do other things, right? It is really just here focused on helping me create this table right now in this app. So keep that in mind. Sometimes you ask a question like that, you might ask it in a way that it doesn't understand. It's trying to protect you from, doing something silly. So, you sometimes kind of have to dance with it. Now, if you also want to look at condition, keep in mind most of these columns, you can click on them and say view column. And so then look, there it is showing me those same choices as well. So interesting, right? It's a good UI for doing this. So that's condition, year, price, we could kind of continue to mess with this. Now, maybe you're looking at your data here and you're like, yeah, I don't know if that's really all the things, right? We could say, what are some suggestions to improve my table? What is it going to do? It should go through, it's going to analyze now, and you can see it's like, hey, you could add more columns, like so player position, card manufacturer, card number. You could add more sample data. You could do all types of things. Now, let's see if this is going to work. So let's just try this. Let's say, I like your idea. I like your idea. Please add the first one. Let's see what it does. All right, so it's like, I have no idea what you mean by the first one. Fair enough. So then we'll just say, please add, I got to click in there. Please add a column to my table for player position. Yeah. All right, and then it'll hopefully get the capitalization right. It's chugging and all right. Now, notice it didn't blink, like that's not the team's call. It doesn't, you don't really realize it happens. You just have to scroll to the right, and then there is our position. And you notice that Boomer Esiason was a quarterback, and it's gotten the data right. So pretty nice. Also notice it left out the word position, or left out the word player. It doesn't just literally do what you say. It will put some thought into doing it correctly, just the same way that it spelled Esiason correctly. Should probably be embarrassed I misspelled Esiason, but I'm not. Now, as you're going through this, you can add these columns. And I guess let's have a little sidetrack for a second. So one of the things that I think is really interesting / different / sometimes hard about tools like Copilot or ChatGPT or Bing Chat or whatever AI tool you're using, the early versions of AI were very, kind of like, hey, if someone asks this question, figure out their answer, and then just kind of insert it in here. Like it was almost like a macro in Word, like it was just kind of filling in blanks. With these tools, that is not the case. What they are doing is they are taking your question in real time. They're analyzing your question, coming up with the appropriate answer, and then in real time, doing the correct thing based on its understanding of that particular question, right? It's not just taking canned questions. And so to that end, you're going to see that when you're using these tools, you're going to get a different behavior every time. Last time I built the football card app, some of these things that I'm asking it right now, they behave differently, right? Both times it was right? There can be more than one right answer, but the context can change. So don't ask it to do something and then be like, oh, it said no. Well, that stinks. It must not be any good. I'm gonna move on, right? Ask it a different way. Ask it to, put a different spin on it, or come back to it, or feed it more information. The more context that you give these tools, the better the answers are you're going to get, right? David and I were having this conversation this morning when we were talking about, prompting these things. When you first start, you're like, make me a column that does blah, and you go super simple. But the more you start to prompt it and say, give it the context, hey, do this thing based on these parameters, thinking about it from this point of view, with this person's tone in mind, like you could start to really prompt these things to help get a better place. All right, that was my little sidetrack here. But I always feel bad when I do these demos because, you're like, why is this guy asking you to do things that don't work? Well, because last time I asked it to do it, it did that thing, right? Or, you're going to have a slightly different experience. Now, if you're trying to, best figure out what to ask it, if you look up here in the top, this literally just rolled out today, hit the little drop down here. And so it will give you some ideas, right? So here are things that it's good at. Add columns, add rows, remove columns, remove rows, change a column, change the data type, refresh the data, give me suggestions, right? So these are all great places to start if you're struggling with what do I do with this thing. But don't think of these are the only things that you can do with it, but think about these are great places for you to learn. So speaking of that, let's try one. Like let's say, look, position in, I didn't even notice that. Right? It surprised me. It may position a choice column without me even asking. But maybe we don't trust that, right? So let's try this. Please change the position column to a text field. I don't know what's going to happen. That's okay. Be brave, right? And then this is another thing I often tell people, like, what's the worst it's going to do? Tell me no? I mean, it's not going to call my mom and tell her that I asked it a dumb question, right? You don't have to be self-conscious about this thing. Look, it did a great job. Maybe we want to give it a thumbs up. Yay. What did you like? It worked. I can tell you that my dear friends in Microsoft are doing a great job of, they are very pro feedback right now on this Copilot stuff. So if you want to be a great contributor, right? When you get this preview, please, every time you ask it something, thumbs up it or thumbs down it, right? Like, if we go back up here where did we do it? So please add a condition for fire damage, and it said it couldn't help, right? It should have added a choice called fire damage. Or, this is the way that you get it doing the things that you want. Give them this feedback. I promise you they are reading every single line of it right now. So give them the feedback, tell them what it's doing right, tell them what it's doing wrong, help shape the product. Other things that I've done with the data, all right, let's try this one. So there's already a price column. There is. Can you please update the price column to use average retail prices for the cards? Is it going to work? Is it not? I have no idea. But once again, not afraid, just going to ask it. What's the worst it's going to say? No. And it did. It said I did not. So fair enough. I can tell you that I've done this type of thing, like when I did a dog breeds demo. And when I did the dog breeds demo, I said, hey, update it with the average weight of this breed. And it went through and updated all of them with the internet data, right? Because once again, this isn't just a little micro version of ChatGPT. It does have internet capabilities. It does have context. And so it was able to do that. Apparently football cards is where it draws the line. I don't know.
So I don't know if you see in the chat, but I'll just chime in for the purpose of them.
Thank you.
A couple questions.
Yes.
Ask it to remove the comma from year. Can you add $ US dollars to the price column? Just some questions.
All
If you're
right.
looking for requests.
No, please send requests. It makes David pay attention, if nothing else. So we will try to ask it to remove the comma for the year. I bet it doesn't work because that's a Dataverse behavior but we can try, right? Once again, what's it going to do? Tell me now. Please remove. Oh, you got to learn. See, typing's hard. Please remove the comma from the year format. I doubt it's going to work, but doesn't hurt to try. Nope, can't do that, right? And I believe that's just the Dataverse behavior, that Dataverse is, it doesn't know how to go and change that particular setting of the Dataverse column, right? So there you go. We tried, it didn't work, but that would be something we could change after the fact, right? Because one of the things that you'll see is that these tables are not immutable, right? Look at me with a fancy word. Once it creates this table for us in a few minutes, that table is just a regular Dataverse table. So we can still go edit the table. We probably don't have time. Maybe we'll have time, but like sometimes I'll go in and add additional columns, because another thing that you might see is like, pretend like Azure here just whispered in my ear. She said, hey, can it add an image column? I don't know, right? So if we try that, see, please add an image column. And so if we ask it to do that, what's going to happen? Well, I can tell you I've asked it a lot of times and it's answered different ways. We're going to see what answer we get. I'm not going to guess. Here we go.
While we're waiting, some of the other thoughts for the year was potentially ask it to change it to just text, right? And then, of course, they're talking about the pricing, trying to add the proper currency value or currency indicator.
Okay. Yep. So yes, I love the idea of changing the text. That's probably what I would do in the real world. So here you can see it added the image column as a URL. But I don't want that. So I would just say, please remove the image column. And then we'll try the currency thing here in a second. We'll finish the image thing and then we'll come back to that. I doubt it's going to do that one either, but that's okay.
While you're waiting for that, one question is this creating a Canvas or model-driven app? And can it create apps that utilize SharePoint instead of Dataverse?
So right now it creates a Canvas app. It would be pretty easy to throw a model-driven app on top of the table because it is a real Dataverse table. So we can go back and build our own model-driven app off of it. Right now it does not have any interactions with SharePoint. I can't speak for the product team on what may or may not happen there, but right now it's a Dataverse only tool. Okay, so it successfully removed our image column. Now, so the question I would want to ask it now, and I did this in the beginning, I had no idea. It's like, what types of columns do you support for creating? I might have worded that wrong, but one of the things, yep, there you go. So one of the things that I don't think people do enough of with these tools is ask the tool, what are you capable of? So here you can see the different types of columns, right? Image and file are not column types that it supports. Lookup is not a column type it supports. So I don't have to go try a bunch of columns that I now can see it doesn't use. Okay, so let's do that. And then, so you said on the price column, I guess we're just trying to ask it what currency is the column set to? Is the price column set to? Does that seem like a first question to kind of get us there? The price column.
From the Department of Redundancy Department.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's amazing, I think was the answer in the beginning. So in this case, I don't think, as far as I know, it does not understand how to any further around the price column. So if we went and looked, I'm guessing after we create it, if we go look, I'm pretty sure it's created in USD. We're not going to be able to change any of those type of settings today with that column, as best I've seen. All right, that. So we column types. Any other?
I mean, I think that, yeah, just okay. If you're talking about that, you're good. But I think that the point you just made, again, Shane referenced it, we were talking about it earlier, conversing with Copilot or whatever AI you're working with is very useful. Don't treat it like it's just a machine. Treat it like it's a conversational opportunity, right? Asking, do you have context? Do you understand this? Are you familiar with? Are you aware of? You can give it URLs. I've seen giving URLs for context. Check out here. Are you familiar with blah, blah, blah from URL, blah, blah, blah? And that helps because then it remembers, it learns along the way. So yeah, great point there.
Yeah. So that was when I did a YouTube video on Bing Chat. So one of the things I did with that one is I said, hey, go read this Reddit post. I gave it the URL of the post. It read the post. And then I asked it questions about this, conversation was happening in Reddit. And, and I asked it a very vague question. So basically in there, they were talking about a video that I had done, right? And somebody had asked a question, and somebody said, oh yeah, Shane had done a video on it, but they didn't give a link, they didn't give any more details, a title. I'm like, I don't know what video that was. So I asked Bing Chat to read it, and I was like, what video are they talking about? And it then spit out 3 videos that were in that context, and sure enough, the first one that it did was absolutely the video. I'm like, right, it knew my content better than I did. I was dumbfounded. So yeah, please have harder conversations with these things. Okay, so I think we're good here. One last one here. Sometimes this comes up, edit table name. So, right now it is football card. I can't edit it, but I can see it. So sometimes what will happen is I practice. I know it never seems like I actually practice, but sometimes I practice. And so if I already had one that I knew was called football card, it would fail on creating. So what I might do here is say, please change the table name to football cards for Azure. All right, there you go. She gets a. Now, the only reason she's sitting beside me right now, if you're wondering, is she just wanted to be on the call and she wasn't allowed to be. So this is like her way of professional.
They let me in, so I'm allowed to be here.
Everyone's welcome.
So look, so there you go. And I'm totally kidding. Azure and I have been having a little spat all week, and so I have the mic right now. So
He's upset. You know what? He needs Snickers. You're not you when you're hungry.
You offered me Chick-fil-A.
You're
not
you when you're hungry.
Okay. So anyway, you can now see that it changed the display name. So keep that in mind. That's this pro trick if you start doing the same scenarios over and over again. Okay, so I think we're good. So now what we're going to do in this bottom right is we're going to click on Create App. Now, fingers crossed. We're going to be very hopeful here. Hope the demo gods are with us. And it should finish here in just a moment. But behind the scenes, what it's doing right now is it's creating that table that we just said. And it's adding the columns, it's adding the sample data. And then it's going to build us a completely working app to interact with that data. Knock on wood. Those desks might not be wood, so it might not have helped. And we get dramatic pause here. Come on, please work. I told you guys, these AI demos are always very challenging because you just never know what's going to happen. All right, we have 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1, no. So if it's not going to cooperate, let's jump. And I think it is. I feel actually better that it's taking a long time.
I got a question for you while we're waiting. So a lot of fears behind the use of all this AI,
Yes.
right? So is it going to take my job as many of the conversational starters for folks?
Oh,
Is it a tool or is it something to be feared?
man, that if we had $1 for every time we answered that question, right, we probably wouldn't be here right now. So yeah, that is the best question right now. Is this going to take my job, right? I built Power Apps for a career, Shane. Now you're showing me that right now this robot is building it. My number one answer to this, I encourage people to quote me on this when I'm talking to others, is AI is not going to take your job. I'm talking to Hugo, and he's not there yet. Thank you. You look the same anyway, right? So AI is not going to take your job, but someone using AI is going to take your job, right? So be the person who's using the tool. AI is not the enemy. AI is just a tool, to David's point. And, just the same way that, Google didn't replace all of our jobs years ago. This whole idea of Copilot or ChatGPT, Bing Chat, or Bard. Bard is terrible, by the way. Anyway, none of those are taking your job, but they are making you better at your job. That is, they're your coworker you never knew you needed and you want, right? That's the whole point of this session, is that you should be embracing these as someone to help you. How many of you work alone? You're the only Power Apps person in your environment. Now we've got Copilot to help.
People also said the Power Platform was going to steal our jobs too. And here we are creating more jobs, a whole new industry of jobs.
Who knew, right? It's almost like progress isn't a bad thing.
Something like that.
I don't know. But I mean, if you think about the wheel of progress at Disney, though, they stopped progressing it. So maybe, who knows? Okay. Anyway, so one our lovely little filler there, it has built us an app. Now, if we hit, let's get rid of this Copilot again, right? And I should have mentioned going into this, there's 3 different Copilots we're kind of hitting here. But so if we hit play, something went wrong, okay? So this, like I told you, I just got this version of Copilot a couple hours ago. This particular one is kicking errors there. No big deal, right? We'll do the Julia Childs thing. We'll switch over here to a different demo. And we'll go.
Put a different chicken in the oven?
I did, right? So now if we just hit play on this one. So this particular Copilot tool, this one is, the way I describe it, I'm sure this is not how Microsoft wants me to describe it, but this is ChatGPT for your own data. This is Copilot for the app user. So your end user, right? The Copilot we just did was for makers, for us to build the app. This particular Copilot drops me in. And so I've pointed it at the table. In this case, I built an FAQ for a manufacturing company. And so now I can ask questions. These are about my data, right? So, and I could just take one as one. What safety measures do you take in the manufacturing process of your products? Click on it. And it's like, hey, let me think about it. And so right now it's reading my entire Dataverse data set. And then this is the answer from the data set. Let's see, let's go look at the data. So to look at the data, oh, yeah, that's not the right one. Darn it. All right, let's not look at the data. So we go right back to dog breeds. We're more familiar with dog breeds. So over here, the one we could say, what countries are represented in the data? So if you've ever used ChatGPT and you're like, hey, I really wish I could use ChatGPT to analyze my own internal data, Copilot for app users does exactly that. I pointed at my Dataverse data. It is pulling in. It is asking. I'm able to ask it questions. It can analyze. If we look at our data set over here, for example, what are the what is the heaviest dog, right? So you can see there's a weight column. So we can say, what is the heaviest dog? Which, think about it. So how does it know? It's a German Shepherd. It's absolutely right. But so it is taking my question, what is the heaviest dog? It's saying, all right, heaviest usually equates to weights or, something like that. Oh, look, he has a weight column and then is analyzing all the data and saying which one has the greatest number. And it's the German Shepherds. Bingo, bango. It has answered your question. So this is our second Copilot. This is Copilot for your users to let it analyze your data. And then, of course, the last thing it did was switch back over to the app that we had built. So it also built us a complete app. So over here on the left, we have a gallery, right? These are all our cards. There's our Boomer Esiason card. We can click on that. There's Boomer's data. And, there's this price. What if our price is a little higher? We can edit the data. And so then now we can change this price from $20 to $205. I don't know. We hit check. Boomer's card just went up. Yes, hope we have one. Hope we got a rookie card. And there you go. We've got and updated our data. So this app, it's not the most complicated app, but it is exactly what you need. It's an app from your data. We've got over here the ability to search our data. So, we can search by different columns. We can add filtering to it. We can create new records. We can edit data. We can delete data. So they've given us a complete working app at this point to work with that data, making it a true app. Like you could literally publish this one and then share it off with Jocelyn right now, and she could just start using my app, right? There's no extra work required. And she would get all the AI capabilities of Copilot for apps. Now, in my last 1 minute before David yanks the cane on me here, up here in the top right, this Copilot up here, this is the third one. So this one is also for us makers. This is where you can start to get help, right? This is back to it being a tool to help you. So how do I use Patch? It's going out, it's analyzing the docs and some other data. And here in a second, it is going to spit out, look at this, an answer on how to use the Patch function in Power Apps. So I've got that. What if I want to add today's date to my app? And it should spit out the today function along with the text wrapped around it. Let's see, did it do it? Oh, so it did, but it didn't do the other part, right? So how can I show the long date? And once again, I asked the same question this morning, and I got a completely different answer. I mean, I got the right answer, but I got a different one. And so here now it's saying, hey, take that format you did earlier, use the text function, and then use the date format, long date. So Copilot, I don't even know what to call this one yet. Copilot for Makers Part 2? I don't know. But this Copilot is able to help me analyze my data, get better questions, ask questions, help me write formulas and that type of stuff. And I think this is really profound. Like I asked it earlier, how do I add filtering to my app? And it talked about adding a dropdown and a collection and the filter function, And a lot of times you ask these questions, they might not be the exact answer you want, but if you knew nothing about filtering your data, you're a lot further along than you were before. All right, I'm getting the stink eye. David, I know you haven't talked in a while. You don't have your sound effects.
I don't know what to do with myself. Beep, boop, bop.
Much better.
Yep, awesome. Thank you, Shane. Very, very excellent discussion on Copilot, its useful features, why we should not be afraid of it. So really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day here to meet with us and share this with the community.